To this awesome presentation entitled Essentials of Preparing, Designing, and Delivering an Effective Presentation. So we're really excited to have these two gentlemen talk to you guys about that, because working in the Career Center, that's something that a lot of employers really emphasize on students being able to present and show those communication skills in the job and workforce. So I'm just going to do a little biography of each of the two gentlemen here. First, we have Dr. Marx, who joined Lawrence Tech University after 28 years with General Motors Corporation, where he served in a number of positions. Prior to General Motors, he was an economist for the Federal Trade Commission and an economic energy consultant for Foster Associates, Inc. in Washington, D.C. His education background, he has a BS in Business Administration and a PhD from in economics from Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania. So his teaching experience, he's had a very extensive teaching experience with different universities, such as Lawrence Tech, Wayne State University, University of Pennsylvania, and Temple University, and has a lot of publications and presentations that he's done in the past. And then we have Dr. Egleston. Hope I said it right? Yeah. His education background, BA from the University of Maryland for Psychology and Business Management, an MBA in Human Resources, and a PhD in Industrial and Organizational Psychology. He has taught a wide range of classes, including Human Resource Management, Business Statistics, Psychology, and Leadership. He is exploring boundary conditions for transformational leadership, and he's also actively studying interrole conflict as well as work teams. As far as work experience, he has done 4 years in the U.S. Army, 4 years conducting research on personality factors that contribute to automobile crashes, and 3 years in the Human Resources Department in Korea. So also with his academic experiences, he is an assistant professor, an academic advisor, and a program evaluator. So we're really lucky to have you guys here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So I don't know if you noticed, but before I started, I checked to make sure that my phone was turned off. And the reason that you want to do that before you even begin a presentation, you don't want to interrupt yourself. You don't want the people that are in the audience checking their phones and answering their phones during your presentation, and you don't want your phone to go off so that you end up interrupting yourself. So we're going to talk today about effective presentation skills. We'll give you the basics of presentation skills. We'll talk about how you actually put together a presentation, and then we're going to give you the opportunity to work with the folks that are at the table that you're seated at, and you're going to put together a short presentation and then give that to the rest of the group, and we who are listening are going to critique. We'll tell you what we liked about your presentation and some areas where you could improve on your presentation. If I've scared you to death, you are free to get up and run out of the room right now. But otherwise, I hope that you'll all stay around and that we'll have an opportunity to learn about presentations and to practice a little bit. When you're preparing to give a presentation, you need to know the topic. You need to make sure that you are current on the information, that you know what you want to talk about, that you have a plan of how you're going to discuss it. Practice the presentation before you give it. The more that you practice, the more comfortable that you'll feel. You may have a little stage fright the first time you get up in front. I remember you talking about that in our class. The first time you get up to give a presentation, it's like, but after that, it's a lot better. I remember you coming at the end of the semester and saying that you felt prepared to give presentations in the future. And that'll be the same for you. So when you're preparing to give a presentation, practice. Practice in front of a mirror, practice in front of your significant other, your dog, it doesn't matter. But get up and actually practice the presentation so that you'll feel more natural and prepared when you give the presentation for real. Now, when I say to practice, it doesn't mean to memorize. If you memorize your presentation, it'll come across as though you're reading from a script. And then you do this, and it'll end up sounding very mechanical and unnatural. So you don't want to over-practice. Another reason that it's important to practice your presentation is to make sure that the presentation will fit within the time frame that you have. Your presentation may be part of a larger group of presentations. and you have a set amount of time that you're supposed to fill and that you're supposed to complete your presentation in. An example of this, anyone know who Marissa Mayer is? Who's Marissa Mayer? Marissa Mayer is the CEO of Yahoo. Prior to joining Yahoo, she was a vice president at Google. And she would have her project teams come in and give presentations, and they had 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, you had to be able to come in, explain what you were doing, tell where you were in the project, convince her that it was worth you continuing with what you were doing, and complete the presentation and answer any questions that she had. And if someone came in to give the presentation, at 15 minutes, if they weren't done, they were done, and she sent them out of the room. So it's important that your presentation will fit within the time frame that you have set aside. Preparing the slides. If you use slides to go along with your presentation, the slides aren't the presentation. The slides are like a crutch. They should add to the presentation. They should capture important information that may be difficult to present. Maybe you can show a picture. You know, we have an expression that a picture paints 1,000 words. If you're trying to describe some difficult apparatus or procedure, you may be able to show a picture, a diagram, or a short video and save yourself a lot of talking and the potential for a lot of confusion. Keep the words to a minimum. You don't want long sentences with lots and lots of detail. You really want just an outline. And you should know the material well enough that you can speak from that outline without having to stand and read directly off of it. If it's appropriate to show pictures, then show pictures. Again, if you're trying to describe something complicated, it may be much easier to show a diagram or a short video than to try to describe that in a lot of detail. It's a little difficult to tell because of all of the lighting here, but you can use differences in color and changes in font to emphasize particular information that you want to call attention to. And it makes your slides a little bit more interesting to look at. But again, the slides aren't the presentation. The slides are just there to help the listener to follow along. And if they want the presentation later on, you can give them a copy of the presentation and they could use that to fill in for their notes. You may provide them the presentation in advance and they can make notes as you're talking. When you get up to give the presentation, you want to dress appropriately. And appropriate means for the situation. If you're giving a presentation at a barn dance, you probably don't wear a suit and tie. If it's a business presentation, even a presentation in one of your classes here at Lawrence Tech, dress appropriately, dress professionally. Make sure that you know what you look like before you go in for the presentation. Go and look in the mirror, comb your hair. Smile at yourself. Remember that salad you had for lunch? There's a little green piece of it stuck between your teeth, and every time you open your mouth, they focus right in on that green piece and they're not hearing what you say. So you don't want your appearance to distract from the presentation. All of it is an attempt to create an image of professionalism, of knowledge of the topic, so that people will have the confidence when they hear you that you're telling them something that's meaningful and that it's right, and when you give them a recommendation or ask them to make a decision, they'll feel comfortable doing so, as opposed to, who is this guy? Language skills. The language that you use should be appropriate for the audience that you're talking to. If you're giving a presentation to elementary school students, you don't want to use a lot of those $10 words. You don't want to talk about situational specificity with 10-year-olds. They have no idea what that means. They might think, oh, he just said something bad. So the language that you use should be appropriate to the situation, appropriate to the level of the audience. The language should be the language of the situation. If you're talking to economists, then you use economic terms. If you're talking to doctors, you use medical terminology. You don't want to use a lot of terminology unless it's appropriate for the discussion. So if I were going in to, I'm an expert in human resources, and if I were going in to talk to people about human resources, I could use the terminology of human resources because I would assume that the audience is familiar with those terms. But just to be careful, I might want to define those terms as I use them. Define them the first time, and then I'll count on the audience to know that term when it's used again later on. Avoid the use of slang. And any kind of slang. You'll notice that when I speak, you won't hear a lot of contractions. You won't hear uncommon language. You won't hear me say, well, and all of that stuff, and well, isn't that just cool? That's not a professional presentation. You want to use normal language, avoid slang, use terminology when it's appropriate, but define those terms for your audience. And then the next is to avoid powerless language, and Dr. Marx is going to discuss that.
Good evening. One of the primary objectives at Lawrence Tech is to help you become more effective leaders. I know a lot of you have been in my leadership class and Patty Costello's class, but we are helping you become better leaders. We want you to become the very best leaders that you can be. To be an effective leader, you have to communicate. It's about the leader develops the vision, the leader creates the strategy, the leader gives the objectives. You have to be clear about that. You have to be able to connect with people. So those communication skills are critical. We try to emphasize both oral and written communication skills in each of our classes. That's why you do a number of presentations as well as written reports. Because I don't care how intelligent you are, if you cannot communicate effectively, your leadership days are numbered. So you need to be able to communicate with people very effectively. And communicating with people doesn't mean talking to them. It means actually making connection with them. And we have some tips here that would help you. If you're going to be a leader, you have to have confidence. You have to believe in what you're saying. If I'm doubtful, if I'm not certain, are you going to follow me? Colin Powell has a great quote. It says, why would you follow anyone into a dark room? Well, you're only going to follow a person into a dark room if you think he or she knows what he's doing. So you have to exude confidence. Even if you're uncertain yourself, don't show any uncertainty, don't show any doubt. One economist at General Motors used to say, sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but I'm never in doubt. You can never be in doubt. You really need to emphasize the confidence that what you're saying is correct. You have to have a bit of an attitude. You can't get up here afraid of the people you're talking to. You have to develop a little attitude. You have to have a little arrogance. I'm not saying be belligerent, but you have to be confident. I know what I'm talking about. You should listen to me. We should do this. It's best for you. And if I'm not confident about it, I'm not going to convince you that this is the right course of action. So we don't want to, in the use of language, we don't want to say a lot of things that's going to undermine confidence in you as the speaker. You don't want to create doubt that, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And a lot of times, these little quirks in the way we speak can really undermine your confidence as a leader. You don't want hesitations. Oh, well, or you know. Well, what are you asking me? Do you know? Don't you know? You're the one supposed to know. What are you asking me for? So you don't want to, at the end of every sentence say, well, you know. Another one is, I think, I guess. You don't know? You guess this is the right thing to do? I guess we should go into this dark room. If you're not certain we should go in there, I ain't going in there with you. And ain't is a slang word. I use it slang sometimes really to emphasize a point. Sometimes it can be very effective when you use a slang word and whatnot, but be very selective about that, just when you want to emphasize a point. But you can never say, I think, I guess, should we? If you don't know, why should I follow you? Tag questions, isn't it, wasn't it? Again, that just undermines your confidence. Wouldn't this be a good idea? Don't you know? What are you giving me this stuff for? What are you telling me this for if you don't think it's a good idea, if you're not certain about it? So again, you need to exude that confidence, that certainty, that what I'm proposing is the right thing to do. Disclaimers, that this may sound crazy, but, and then you go on. Well, you know what? As soon as you say this sounds crazy, everybody in the audience is going to say, yeah, it probably is crazy. Why are you saying it sounds crazy? It must sound crazy to you. You don't want to make these little mistakes. People will interpret those as you're lacking confidence and lacking certainty about what we should be doing. Accounts. In the leadership class, we always teach, when things go right, you need to give all the credit to the team. When things go wrong, you need to accept the responsibility. If you accept responsibility for failures, people will forgive you. But if you try to blame it on other people, they will never forget that. So, don't come up with excuses. My dog ate my homework, or it wasn't my fault. Especially as the leader, it may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. That's what leadership is about, assuming the responsibility for performance. Side particles, comments like simply or that is, or sometimes get a little fancier to say i.e. Those are distracting, and it's stilted language. You want to use, as Dr. Egleston said, language appropriate for the audience, but you don't want to use stilted language, a lot of fancy jargon and whatnot. You want to communicate with people. You're not here to try to show them how bright you are or how great your lexicon is. You really want to be able to make contact with them. Slang, unless you're going to use ain't or something for emphasis, you want to avoid slang. You want to avoid code words. All organizations have their own code words, and people are tempted to use that. But unless everyone in the audience knows those code words, you really want to avoid them because you're going to lose people. I remember one time I was out at the TACOM, the big Army base in Warren, and some of the people were making presentations, and they would get up and say, oh, well, G2 wants to do this, and we need to coordinate this with G5 and the CID and the AKY. And after they all got done, I said, well, I'm going to make some comments, but I'm going to speak in English so that you can understand me. So avoid those code words if at all possible. Don't fade out at the beginning or the end. You want to come on strong right from the beginning, and you want to end on a strong note. Project your voice. Some of us have stronger voices than others. A way to make sure you project your voice is to speak to the people in the back of the room. Make sure that they can hear you and understand you. Since, if they can't hear you, they're not going to be able to understand what point you're trying to get across. And don't use long, convoluted, run-on sentences. You shouldn't do that when you write a paper. Right? Short, hard-hitting sentences are much more effective in written communications. It's also true in oral communications. People will get lost in the middle of your sentence, but you don't want to do that. And then giving the presentation, you have to maintain eye contact. I want to make sure you're listening to me. I want to make contact with you. I want to make contact with you. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not going to hide. You put your head down and start looking at your feet, and everybody's going to be wondering what kind of shoes you're wearing. It must be really interesting shoes. You can't do that. You've got to make contact with people. This is what communication is about. It's not just talking to people. It's getting them to buy into your vision, to your mission, getting them to buy into what you want them to do, to meet your expectations, if you will. Do not read from papers or slides. How many people do this? Like Dr. Egleston said, You got it all written out on the board, right? Long sentences all written out, and you get up there, and do not read from papers to slides, don't hold papers, books, hold the materials, don't turn your back on the audience, they're going to turn their back on you. You know what happens when it's all written out on the slide. You're going to read the slide, and then you're not going to pay any attention to what's being said. You will do that. Well, you have to recognize that's what they're going to do to you if you get up there and start reading. And you lose all your confidence. And I could bring my mother in, she could read the slide to you. Does she know anything about it? No, but she can read. That's the impression you get. Who wrote these slides? You're just reading them. These aren't really yours. Like Dr. Egleston said again, the slide is a crutch, a help. It's not the presentation. You are the presentation. Do not hide behind the podium. That can be scary, right, Faisal? But people are tempted to hide behind the podium, hold up a bunch of papers in front of them, maybe even like this. You're scared, you're uncertain, you're nervous. And even if what you have to say is credible and important, it's all going to be undermined by your presentation, by your body language. You don't want to do that. And as Faisal and others had my leadership class know, one of the first things we do is it's called an AOR. It's a 5-minute presentation, right? That's a 5-minute, I shouldn't have said right. It's a 5-minute presentation. And no slides, no papers, no podium. You need to get up here and communicate with people for 5 minutes, telling about some incident in your life. And the hope is that will rub off when you make a more formal presentation with slides. So you can have the slides, but you'll still have that contact with people. You won't run and hide behind the slides. And don't cling to the screen. Avoid distracting behavior. People engage in a lot of odd behavior. Body language is important. I wouldn't look so good standing here like this. Some people like to do a little two-step. Girls like to play with their necklaces or scratch their head or something like that. These are all signs that you're nervous and that you're uncertain, and they just simply undermine your confidence, undermine the confidence in you. And just to pick up on one other thing that Dr. Egleston said, when I was at General Motors, the executive committee would have, every Wednesday, they would have meetings from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. You had 15 minutes, and the halls would be lined up with 80 people waiting to get in. And one thing that Jack Smith said when he was CEO was really profound. He said, "Tell me what you want me to do. I don't want a song and dance. I don't want a big history. That's your job. Tell me what you want me to do. Do you want me to approve this new project? Do you want me to call some congressmen? Do you want me to authorize hiring some more people? What do you want me to do? Tell me. And I'll tell you whether I'm going to do it or not." And your 15 minutes is up, and out you go. So that's why, again, it's very important that you learn how to make the critical points, get the critical points across in the time allotted. Because in the business world, time is money. And executives and higher level leaders, they don't have a lot of time. They have to make decision after decision after decision. And you got to learn to make those presentations. Otherwise, your 15 minutes will be up and you'll never get to the bottom line, and it'll usher you out the door. You would come back some other time and try it again. So a lot of this is just tips. A lot of it is common sense. You know this as well as I do. You know you shouldn't be doing stuff like this. But with so much of leadership, what is common sense and easy to understand, you know what you should be doing, it's hard to do it. It really is hard to do it. We should all have emotional stability, right? We should not get flustered, but that's easy to do. The only way you can overcome this, the only way you can become a better communicator is to practice. It's like riding a bicycle. You can read the manual. I think you go crazy trying to read the manual. Lift one foot up, push it forward, lift the other. Oh my goodness gracious. You got to get on the bike and ride. If you want to be a leader, of which communication is a major part, you have to get in there and communicate. We will give you opportunities in practically every class to do this, certainly in the leadership and classes of that sort, give you chances to practice and to learn from it. And you got to have a little bit of a hard skin, a little bit thick skin, because as we're going to do here today, we would appreciate you making some comments about what is really good about the presentation, and maybe what's not so good about the presentation. But you can't take that personally. No one's perfect. I'd hate to have you critique my communications twice. Really be embarrassed. But you have to be able to take criticism objectively. They're not criticizing you. They're criticizing something about the presentation that I can change, that I can make better. You can learn from every time you make a presentation, every time you write a paper, you can learn how to do it a bit better. So with that, I'll turn back over to Dr. Egleston to wrap this up.
All right, so the presentation itself, there are 3 sections to a presentation. Begin with an introduction where you get people's attention and get them on your side. Present the main thesis, the main points that you want to get across as a part of your introduction, and then you'll come along in the next section, in the body of the presentation, and you'll give evidence in support of your thesis. You'll provide data and details and information that back up your position. And once you've done so, then in the conclusion, you ask for some kind of action. You ask someone to make a decision, to give you access to resources, to buy your product, whatever the purpose of the presentation is. So in the introduction, well, you need to get people's attention first. And there are different ways that you can do this. Tell a story, tell a joke, relate a quotation, something that shows that you're in command of the situation and that you're human. If you can tell the joke and get people to laugh and relax, it'll help you to laugh and relax. And now you're working together in this presentation, and it's not them against you or you against them. You're all working together to have a good presentation and to make a decision. State the purpose of the presentation up front. Tell people in the introduction what it is that you're going to try to accomplish. You're there to get a decision. You're there to change their opinion. You're there to make a sale. Tell them that right up front. Relate each of the points that you're making to that thesis. And then when you have finished that, then you have a transition from your introduction into the body. And that transition could be something as simple as, now let me tell you why I think you should buy our product. And then you transition into the body. Make your points. Provide supporting detail for your points. It may be useful, again, to use pictures or drawings or videos or a demonstration. Anybody watch Shark Tank? Those are presentations, aren't they? Some of them are tremendously effective. You've got people that come out and they have a demonstration of their product. Here, drink my coffee, eat my pie, here, taste my whatever, play with this toy that I'm trying to sell. What they're doing is they're trying to get the audience on their side. And so you provide evidence that is credible and that supports the arguments that you're trying to make, and you're starting to make a series of logical steps from where they started to where you want them to be, and you make all of these steps on the way toward the conclusion. Watch when people might be confused. How many of you think I've looked directly at you today during the course of this presentation? Seeing a lot of hands in the room. And the reason is, I have looked at you or near you for everyone in this room. Can you tell exactly who I'm looking at right now? It's someone at this table. Who is it exactly? Okay, but if he'd raised his hands, I wouldn't have been surprised. And if I were back here, there would be more possibility for confusion. Don't fixate on one person. You're talking to the room. You're talking to the audience. You want to be inclusive, because at the end of the presentation, you're going to ask for a decision, and all of the people that are in the room are there for a reason. They're there because they're going to participate in the decision, or they're going to participate in the activity that you're there to present. If you're looking at people, you can tell, they get that look on their face, I need to provide some more information. I need to give an example. I need to explain a little bit better because I've lost half of the room. Give them a break. If your presentation is longer than just a few minutes, you need to give people the time to take a mental break. Any idea how long people can concentrate on one thing continuously? Attention span, it's more than 30 seconds unless you're two. Oh, okay, or maybe you have severe ADHD. Okay, what do you think? What's a good concentration span?
40 minutes.
I would say 15 minutes is as long as I would go. Somewhere between 7 and 15 minutes, I'm going to give you a break. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to get up and walk around. I can give you a break by telling a joke. I can give you a break by telling a story. I can give you a break by just stopping for a second and give you a little bit of time to digest the information that I've just presented. And then continue with the presentation. If you just keep droning on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you've lost it. And people have tuned out. Even though they may be trying to pay attention, they can't. And they're going to miss critical information, and you've lost it. Conclusion. Review the points that you've made. Now, you've presented these arguments, you've presented data to support your arguments, you've gotten to the point where you're going to ask for a decision. Go back and review the points that you've made. Show the logical procession from where you started to where you want the room to be. Relate the points to the main thesis, and it should be obvious to your audience at the end of the presentation what it is that they should be doing because you've made the argument for them. Then at the end, this is where you make the recommendation or you ask for the action. And you ask the people in specific terms. My father was a very effective salesperson. That's not my talent, but my father could sell just about anything. Anybody know what the Yellow Pages is? You know what the Yellow Pages? My father was the #3 salesperson for the country for the Yellow Pages. He could sell anything. I can't. Do you know why? Because I don't feel comfortable at the end of a presentation asking someone to buy the product. I just don't feel comfortable in that. So I don't do sales. But when you give a presentation, the end of your presentation, you're going to ask people to take some kind of action, to make a decision, to commit resources, to change their mind. And so at the end of our presentation, the decision that we're asking you, the action is, we want to make sure that everyone is seated at one of the tables around the room. So those of you who are hanging in the back, come on up and get a seat. And together with the group that you have got 10 minutes to select a topic and to put together a 3-minute presentation based on your topic. Work together as a team. Come on in, come. Sit down, take up to places around the table. Notice I'm calling for action, right? Come on up and grab a seat around the table. Together with your group, pick a topic, start working up a presentation. If you have a computer and you want to do it that way, that's great. If you don't, you can do it on paper. I'll leave several sheets of paper on each table. Are you folks ready to go? Yeah, sure. All right, this group is going to go first.
All right, everybody. We're our presentation. We are talking about why dogs are better than cats. The answer is obvious that they're better. So here we go. Brace yourselves.
Alright. The first reason that dogs are better than cats is
dogs show their love. Like when you go home after a long day of work or something, your dog is usually excited to see you and they're like wagging their tails and then they'll like lick you in the face or something like that. But cats, when you go home to them, they're sleeping and they're not excited to see you.
Yeah, and plus, if you're depressed, you don't even have to go the whole day. You can just walk outside for like 5 minutes, come back, and the dog will freak out. So happy to see you.
And if something is going on in your home, burglary or whatever, robbery, and the dogs are the one who come and save us, and so that they are the cops and everyone are using dogs. And moreover, when apart from friendly and those things, they are helping a lot in the survival action.
On another note, dogs obey commands. They can help by being seeing eye dogs. They can help their owners do various many things, and things like that, I guess. Whereas cats, on the other hand, do not. They do not obey commands. They pretty much do whatever they want. They live in your home to get you to feed them, and that's basically all they live for.
Dogs actually help the emergency services. Like you got the police with their attack dogs, you got Dalmatians helping firefighters out, whereas cats are a negative strain on emergency services because all these firefighters have to drive around getting them onto trees all day. Like, major problem. Yeah, that's in conclusion, we have empirically deduced cats suck. That's all.
Okay, hang on a second. Very good. All right, who's got two positive comments, one piece of constructive advice? Go ahead.
I have a positive one. I don't know your name, the blue shirt, is a really good calling our attention, but you did a lot of slangs.
Okay.
You are good, like calling our attention what you were talking about, but you did a lot of slangs.
A lot of slang.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone here?
They're all good.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Oh, good. All right. From this table, any?
Excellent.
Anything they could have done better?
The keyboard was good.
Good initiative
Why
in
that's not
itself.
enough for you?
Can you believe we only had 3 minutes to put that
Good
together?
initiativeness actually.
10 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. Good job. Okay, how about is this group? Are you ready? Come on out.
We already know it.
I know that because they
Are you ready? Okay. 3 minutes.
Our topic is about why do we need to go more often to the gym. We always have we have the best option here at Lawrence Tech. It's called Field House, and they provided you free service about going to the gym and getting trained. And we have there, it's free for the staff and for the students too. So also it's open every day, every weekday and at weekends too. Its hours are extended. And why should we go to the gym? Because the first reason and the most important is to be healthier. It should help us to get our body trained, to get fit, and this will increase our self-confidence and will help us to feel better.
Being more healthier can be beneficial for many reasons. I remember one time I was at my father's house and he couldn't lift the stove. He had got a new stove, so he was just ready to cook. He just wanted some food and stuff like that. But I was busy with school, so when I went over there, I helped him lift it. He was happy. So you never know what situation you'll be in where you need to lift something, or somebody can fall on the ground, a tree branch on you. So
make new friends and to
make
have
new
good friends.
And maybe spouses, maybe become attractive.
And also it will help you get more focused on your courses and on your lessons, and also with the concentration, it will help you a lot. Why not having the awesome body for the summer that is coming? So you guys, you should be on the gym very more often that you do. This is our presentation, I think.
Okay, very good. All right, hold on. All right, something that you liked?
The topic, great topic.
Great topic. Love the story about your father in the stove. Great story. All right, some area that they could have improved? Excuse me?
This is our team, so you don't have.
Oh, you liked it, okay.
Could use more
An
people
area,
up there.
could have used more people, an area where they could improve?
Eye contact.
Eye contact? Okay.
There wasn't like a lot of energy exuding during the presentation. Like it was pretty like,
Which, you know, that's really interesting given the topic is about exercising and activity, and the presentation was a little lackadaisical, so that stood out a
We
little
should
bit.
have shown here an example.
Well, not perhaps an example, or you're gonna roll up your sleeves, okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay, gentlemen, I think we have time for one more. Are you ready?
Hello everyone. My name is Faisal. Here's my friend Danny, Haldward, and Nova. Today we're going to present to you a safety device project. If you know, there's every 44 seconds one car is stolen. So today we're going to present to you a stolen car recovery system device. And
Alright, the device is implemented in your car, and as soon as the intruder intrudes your car, this is like the second shield of protecting your car. If the first shield, which is your basic alarm system, fail, then this system is going to be activated. The intruder take your car, then take the scenario, the intruder take your car, he drive, as soon as he activate the car, start running, SMS is going to send from that device to your mobile phone. The pre-installed number is going to send an SMS say your car being installed. Then you're going to request for action. You have two actions. You're going to send back a SMS saying locate, so the device will.
All right, well, how many of you guys have a cell phone? An iPhone maybe? No? Anybody have an iPhone?
No
All right, well,
iPhone.
some.
No iPhone.
I'm not particularly certain whether Android has this function, but an iPhone has where's my iPhone function. And I actually had a bad experience of getting my phone stolen, and I had to remotely wipe it. So think of this application towards your car. Your car was stolen, you don't know where it is. You coming out of school, it's gone. You're wondering where your car is. It sends you an automatic message saying where it is and what you can do to it. You can stop it, you can contact police. Imagine the possibility of such an application in your car. There are currently several alternatives to what we're talking about here, such as LoJack and OneStar. They're costly alternatives, cost about $100 a month for similar services. But what would you say if we put this product out there on, let's say, Kickstarter? Would you drop in $10? Would you buy this application if it was developed for you with your support? Would you consider purchasing something like that for, say, $20 a month? I want to see a row of hands. How many people would buy this for $20 a month?
20 was fine a lot. Now
Okay, 15. Let's do 15.
I'll give you $4.99.
The basic TM, the SIM card itself, it costs you $10. That's must. Then there's an initial cost for the device. that will add it one time, while one star is going to charge you $100 every month. Thank you very much.
Okay. What was something you liked about the presentation?
I liked how you guys really tried to convince me right at the, especially at the end.
Okay, what's something you liked about the
I
presentation?
like the presentation of each partner of the group.
Good,
the first.
good coordination between
Yeah,
them.
good coordination.
What was something they could?
They were more interactive with the audience.
Okay, they did a good job of maintaining eye contact and interest. They got you to laugh. Go ahead.
Statistics.
Yeah, I love that. Car stolen every 44 seconds.
Yes. Yeah.
That kind of
Fact.
fact, that kind of statistic can get people's attention, and automatically it makes it a real problem to me. I have a car. I don't want my car stolen in 44
I want to go
seconds.
check. It's been at least an hour.
Okay, what's an area that they could have improved on?
Worked hardest during this presentation.
Time maintenance. Time man.
We were perfect. You know, you didn't
You were perfect.
Yeah, they were very nice.
All right, I thought you guys did a really good job. Thank you very much. And to all of you, thank you very much for spending some time with us this afternoon. If you would like to have a copy of the presentation, I've written my email address on the whiteboard up here. If you will send me an email asking for the presentation, I'll be happy to email it to you. We've recorded the presentation today, and at some time in the future, it will be available on the website of the College of Management. Thank you for spending time with us today, and we'll see all of you later on.